Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I am Anil Thomas. Coming up in the next 60 minutes. Poll campaigning for India's parliamentary election gains momentum. Prime Minister holds roadshow in South India. Congress leaders discuss election manifesto. India committed to combating piracy and terrorism in the Indian Ocean region. Bulgaria President thanks Indian Navy's anti-piracy operation. Joe Biden and Benjamin Netanyahu interact after a month as tensions grow over food crisis in Gaza. United States pushed for a new ceasefire deal in the region. And Anthony Blinken in Manila discusses rising tensions in South China Sea. US stands by ironclad commitments to defend Philippines. Well, let's get started on what's happening at home in India as a build-up to the world's largest democratic general elections. Well, campaigning is gaining momentum for the forthcoming parliamentary elections in India. Leaders of various political parties have started holding rallies and public meetings to woo the voters. Prime Minister held a massive roadshow in the southern state of Kerala today. The Prime Minister received a rousing welcome from the large number of people in Palakkad, city of the state. Well, Prime Minister of India later in the day also visited the southern state of Tamil Nadu. Prime Minister held a massive public rally in Salem. He received a warm welcome at the state as thousands lined up to catch a glimpse of the Prime Minister. Furthermore, the Prime Minister also addressed the gathering on the occasion. The Congress Working Committee met on Tuesday and deliberated thoroughly on the party's manifesto for the upcoming general elections. In his address to the Congress Working Committee meeting, Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge said that Congress workers in every village, town will have to rise to take their manifesto to every household. The Congress President and former party chiefs Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi attended the meeting. The party is fighting the elections on the issue of 5-point justice. This involves achieving justice for 4 key sections of the society: young, women, farmers and laborers, and achieving equal representation in every field. The party is giving 25 guarantees, 5 for each of the promised justices, which were announced by the President Kharge and Rahul Gandhi earlier this year. The Central Election Committee is expected to clear the candidates list for the first phase of polls scheduled on April 19th. The party has so far named 82 candidates into lists. Well, the Congress Working Committee met today, earlier in the day, and now let's cut across live to listen to the live press conference.
Completed 6,500 kilometers within 63 days. Actually, 17 public meetings, mega rallies during the yatra had been done, and tens of thousands of people interacted with Rahul Gandhi during this yatra. During this yatra, we announced 5 guarantees. Basically, you know that Hissadari Nyay guarantee, Yuva Nyay, Kisan Nyay, Nari Nyay, Shramik Nyay. Today, Working Committee wholeheartedly appreciate the way in which the guarantees announced during the Bharat Jodo Nyay Yatra, and CWC had prepared a plan to percolate this message of guarantees to the grassroots level people. Basically, you know that we already announced these 5 guarantees: social, economic and caste census, 50% cap on SC, ST, OBC reservation will be removed through a constitutional amendment, special budget for SC, ST equal to their share of population, Forest Right Act claims will be settled in 1 year, all habitation where STs are the most populous group will be notified scheduled area. This is a Hissadari Nyay. Even Nyay, you know that 30 lakhs new central government jobs according to a job calendar will be created. 1 year apprenticeship for all educational youth at rupees 1 lakh per year. Laws are completely end all paper leakage. Better working condition and social security for gig workers. Rupees 5,000 crores startup fund for youth. This is the guarantee for Yuva Nyaya. Kisan Nyay, MSP legal guarantee at Swaminathan formula. Standing loan waiver commission for farmers. Guaranteed insurance payment within 30 days for crop loans. Stable import-export policy to benefit farmers. No more GST on input for farming. Nari Nyaya, Mahalakshmi, 1 lakh year, 1 woman in every poor family. 50% women reservation in new central government jobs. Double salary contribution of a central for all Ashas, Anganwadi and midday meal workers. Adhikar Maitri in every village to ensure women get their legal rights. Double number of hostels for working women. Then Shramik Nyay, right to health law that provides universal health care including free essential diagnostics, medicines, treatment, surgery and rehabilitative and palliative care. National minimum wage of 400 per day including all Mahatma Gandhi Nareka workers. Employment Guarantee Act for urban areas also. Life insurance and accident insurance for unorganized workers also. Stop contractualization of employment in government functions.
Well, Laibish was there from the briefing by the General Secretary of the Indian National Congress Party, speaking about the 5 promises, and also Rahul Gandhi's Bharat Jodo Nyay Yatra, speaking about 5 promises, stressing on the 5 promises, which talks about employment promises to healthcare benefits if elected to power. Shifting focus as campaigning intensifies, political leaders are now gearing up to woo the voters and the masses, and they are preparing to send their best representatives to the House. Let's take a look at the issues that will play in the minds of the masses when they press the ballot.
As India gears up for general elections, political parties are also ready with the list of issues they wish to go to the voters with. The political war of 2024 will essentially be fought in many small battles throughout the nation, with each battle having its own set of issues and strategies. However, on a larger canvas, the fight for a majority in the lower house will be between the two big alliances: the National Democratic Alliance, comprising the BJP and its allies, and Indi Alliance, or the Indian National Development Inclusive Alliance. It is an alliance of over 20 political parties, including the Indian National Congress. While the two major parties, that is the BJP and the Congress, will be in direct fight in many states, the alliance partners will square off against each other in most parts of the nation. Both the camps seem to be ready with their own strategy of wooing the voters. The incumbent BJP-led NDA will focus on the work done by the Narendra Modi government in the past 10 years, while the opposition will try and strike a chord with issues like inflation, unemployment, etc. There are some issues that will dominate the campaigning in weeks to come. The NDA led by the BJP has focused on 10 years of uninterrupted public welfare. The BJP is ready with a long list of accomplishments that the party thinks will catapult it to the third straight victory. A critical pillar of BJP's economic program consists of new welfareism, in which the government has ramped up investments in the public distribution of private goods such as gas cylinders, toilets, bank accounts and electricity connections. Flagship welfare programs for the poor. The Modi Guarantee has been a key campaign slogan for the BJP.
The India Alliance ran a mass outreach program led by the Indian National Congress ahead of the upcoming general elections. The Bharat Jodo Nyaya Yatra began from the northeastern state of Manipur to end in the western Indian city of Mumbai. It aimed to raise the pitch for social, economical, political justice for the people of India.
While Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal has urged Delhi residents to vote for Indi bloc for stronger representation in Parliament, promising inflated water bills will be waived within 15 days. The BJP is fighting opposition, which apart from India Alliance also includes regional satraps. The biggest state in terms of seats is UP or Uttar Pradesh, and here the fight is multi-cornered. BJP, India Alliance and BSP are the main players on the political pitch. Apart from this, there are pockets of political activity where the BJP will be in direct contest with many state parties that are fighting independently and have a powerful base with the voters. In West Bengal, BJP will be against the Trinamool Congress led by Mamata Banerjee. Increased GDP growth, construction of the Ram Temple in the holy city of Ayodhya, passage of Women's Reservation Bill, successful moon landing by Chandrayaan-3 are some of the highlights that the government will go to the masses with. The issues, both national and regional, are dynamic, and the political map of India will see many more issues which will pitch the parties against each other. Whichever party wins majority, democracy will once again emerge as the clear winner. Bureau Report, DD India.
Well, in response to media queries on the comments made by the spokesperson of the Chinese Defense Ministry regarding Arunachal Pradesh, the official spokesperson of the Ministry of External Affairs of India, Randir Jaiswal, said, and I quote, "We have noted the comments made by the spokesperson of the Chinese Defense Ministry advancing absurd claims over the territory of the Indian state of Arunachal Pradesh. Repeating baseless arguments in this regard does not lend such claims any validity. Arunachal Pradesh was, is and will always be an integral and inalienable part of India. The people will continue to benefit from our development programs and infrastructure projects." Still to come on DD India News Hour. Defense Minister Rajnath Singh discusses defense cooperation issues with US Defense Chief Lloyd Austin. Japan raises interest rates for the first time since 2007. China activates level 4 emergency as rescuers battle wildfires in China's Sichuan region.
news breaks, whatever it takes.
Connecting corners, cutting across continents.
Stories that matter from across the globe.
Accurate, authentic journalism that serves you right. From politics to glamour, from sports to world affairs, with a fusion of aesthetics and substance. Introducing news in a new avatar. Experience the world through a new lens. Stay tuned to DD India for an exciting journey beyond borders.
India that invents. India that innovates. India that excites. India that invites. Land of possibility. Teeming with opportunities. Watch India Ideas each Thursday 8 p.m. only on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Anil Thomas. The Philippines Foreign Minister said on Tuesday that the challenge ahead was how to sustain and further elevate relations between his country and the long-term ally, the United States. Philippines Foreign Minister Enrique Manalo thanked visiting U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken at a joint press conference for his country's support with regards to recent incidents in the South China Sea. Manalo added his country was committed to managing disputes in accordance with the rule-based order. Speaking at the same news conference, Blinken said China's actions in the South China Sea had triggered a wider international reaction and the United States was engaged in intense diplomacy to reaffirm international law.
The challenge now is how to sustain and further elevate our alliance and partnership. Our discussion today focused on many issues. These include on defense and security engagement. We discussed ways to strengthen the alliance through better coordination at the policy and operational levels to ensure that it remains relevant and responsive to current, emerging, and cross-cutting challenges in the defense, security, and economic spheres, while staying true to our commitment to safeguarding and promoting peace, security, and prosperity of the region, always anchored on the rule of law.
We have a shared concern about the PRC's actions that threaten our common vision for a free, open Indo-Pacific, including in the South China Sea and in the Philippines exclusive economic zone. Repeated violations of international law and the rights of the Philippines, water cannons, blocking maneuvers, close shadowing, other dangerous operations. These waterways are critical to the Philippines, to its security, to its economy, but they're also critical to the interests of the region, the United States, and the world.
But for more on the story, we've got DD India's Patrick Falk joining us with the latest on the meeting, especially between Blinken and Philippines over the rising tensions there in the South China Sea. Patrick, how does one take a look at, the U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken's visit to Philippines?
Well, look, we said previously that this visit is about Washington reaffirming its commitment to its ally and their defense treaty. This is an incredibly important trip for that reason. The Secretary of State described that commitment as being ironclad in that joint press briefing with Enrique Manalo, particularly important at a time when there has been growing tension between Manila and Beijing over their territorial disputes in the South China Sea. Anthony Blinken, as we heard also just a moment ago, said that these waterways were critical not just to the Philippines, its security and its its economy, but also to the region, the US and the world. Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has said recently that he has been alarmed by Beijing's actions, and this was an important visit also because it comes at a time when there have been questions about just how far Washington would go to defend the Philippines in the event of any sort of armed attack. So this will have sent an important signal to Beijing that it will stand by and back its treaty ally, but at the same time it's difficult to see Beijing softening its stance or changing its position on its claim to nearly all of the South China Sea as well.
Patrick, do you get the sense that, US finds Philippines now to be a closer ally with the new power regime?
Well, there's absolutely no doubt about that, and that's part of what has upset Beijing, that there has been this sort of deepening cooperation between the Philippines and the US on many different fronts, and that is part of the reason why Beijing has been acting more assertively. Ironically, you could argue that this is precisely what is pushing the US closer towards Manila and deepening their military cooperation. But also, remember, part of this visit by Antony Blinken is also about paving the way for a trilateral summit to take place in April between Japan, the Philippines and the US. So these efforts are becoming more coordinated with US allies as well. In addition, it's not just militarily that the Philippines is closening in cooperation with the US on. It comes just a week after the Commerce Secretary, Gina Raimondo, led a business delegation to the Philippines and said that the US would invest as much as $1 billion in the Philippine economy. We also heard that the Secretary of State Antony Blinken visited a semiconductor factory today prior to his meeting with Enrique Manolo as well. So there is evidence here that that cooperation goes beyond military partnership and will deepen even further, and that makes it even more difficult for Beijing in the future.
We'll leave it there. Thank you. Appreciate you joining us. Patrick Falk, DD India's correspondent, joining us with the latest on the developments there in the South China Sea region. Moving forward, Prime Minister on Tuesday said India is committed to protecting freedom of navigation and combating piracy and terrorism in the Indian Ocean region after Bulgarian President Ruen thanked him for the Indian Navy rescuing his country's ship and crew. In a tweet, he said, and I quote, "Appreciate your message, President. We are happy that 7 Bulgarian nationals are safe and will be returning home soon. India is committed to protecting freedom of navigation and combating piracy and terrorism in the Indian Ocean region." Earlier, Bulgarian President thanked Indian Prime Minister for the rescue, saying, "My sincere gratitude to Prime Minister Narendra Modi for the brave action of Navy rescuing the hijacked Bulgarian ship Ruen and its crew, which included 7 Bulgarian citizens." Indian Navy on Sunday released a video showing rescue operations carried out over the weekend. During the operation, the Indian Navy forces, including special commandos, seized a cargo vessel, rescuing 17 crew members. While all the 35 pirates surrendered, the Navy spokesperson said that maritime operations by India reflect their commitment towards reinforcing peace and stability in the Indian Ocean region. Meanwhile, with an aim to boost defense cooperation, India's Defense Minister Rajnath Singh held a telephonic conversation with US Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin. Both ministers briefly discussed a range of bilateral, regional, security and defense cooperation issues. The US Secretary of Defense appreciated the important role being played by the Indian Navy in conducting anti-piracy operations in the Indian Ocean region. The two ministers discussed ways and means to implement the India-US Defense Cooperation Roadmap, which concluded last year. Both the leaders also reviewed the recent bilateral events such as Index X Summit held in New Delhi in February this year and the bilateral tri-service exercise Tiger Triumph, which has also commenced in India on March 18th. Defense Minister Rajnath Singh and Lloyd Austin had last met in New Delhi in November last year during the India-US Ministerial 2+2 dialogue. Amid the telephonic conversation between India's Defense Minister and US Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, Focusing on strengthening defense ties between the two countries, Indian Navy extended a warm welcome to US Somerset of the US Navy to Visakhapatnam for exercise Tiger Triumph. The ship will be participating in the tri-service India-US amphibious exercise Tiger Triumph 24 under the aegis of the Eastern Naval Command. The exercise is aimed to further enhance interoperability and work towards a multinational model for missions in the Indian Ocean regions. Indian Air Force fighter and transport aircraft carried out operations on the emergency landing facility, that's the ELF airstrip on National Highway 16 in Bapatla district in the southern state of Andhra Pradesh. Su-30 and Hawk fighters successfully carried out overshoots during the activation, while an AN-32 and Dornier transport aircraft landed and subsequently took off from the strip. Previously, such an activation was conducted on the 29th of December 2022. The 4.1 kilometer long and 33 meter wide concrete airstrip has been constructed by the NHAI. While other airstrips are already operational in various parts of the country, this ELF in Andhra Pradesh has been recently operationalized in peninsular India. On to other stories. The Bank of Japan ended 8 years of negative interest rates and other remnants of its unorthodox policy on Tuesday. The Bank of Japan increased its key interest rates from 0.1% to 0% to 0.1%. It comes as wages have jumped after consumer prices rose. While the move will be Japan's first interest rate hike in 17 years, it still keeps rates stuck around zero as a fragile economic recovery forces the central bank to go slow in any further rise in borrowing costs. In a widely expected decision, the Bank of Japan ditched a policy put in place since 2016 that applied a 0.1% charge on some excess reserves financial institutions parked with the central bank. A quick look at other stories making news around the world. According to Switzerland's IQ Air data published on Tuesday, Pakistan, Bangladesh and India remain the world's three smoggiest countries in 2023, with particulate matter about 15 times the level recommended by the World Health Organization. The IQ Air report was based on data from more than 30,000 monitoring stations in 134 countries and regions. 13 miners were trapped in a gold mine after a rock fall in Russia's Amur region on Tuesday. The accident occurred at the Pioneer Mine, one of the largest gold mines in Russia, based on processing capacity. Russian ministry said that the communications were being restored and mechanized clearing of the transport slope is being carried out. Well, open flames in a wildfire in southwest China's Sichuan province was extinguished on Monday. Over 1,500 personnel, including firefighters, armed police and aviation rescue teams were deployed on site to combat the blaze. All 473 residents in the shade town were impacted by the fire and were safely evacuated. Well, still to come on DD India News Hour. US and Israeli officials to discuss alternatives to Rafah ground offensive. Donald Trump's civil fraud loss proves heavy on his wallet as he needs to pay up $500 million. Supreme Court to hear over 200 petitions linked to Citizenship Amendment Act.
We just don't bring you the news as it unfolds. We get to the heart of the matter.
We don't just present facts. We demystify complex social, political and economic events.
We break stories that shape the world's present and future because you deserve the truth.
I am Tanvi Taneja from New Delhi.
I'm Ollie Barrett from London.
I'm Nick Harper from Washington, D.C.
Join us on DD India Global Monday to Friday at these times.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Anil Thomas. Moving a quick recap of the headlines. Well, moving forward, update now from the Israel-Hamas conflict. Israel will send an interagency team to Washington to discuss a potential military operation in Gaza's southern city of Rafah. The decision was conveyed by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to the US President Joe Biden over a call on Monday. The two leaders also talked about the efforts to increase aid to Gaza.
We discussed the latest developments in the war, including Israel's commitment to achieving all of the war's goals, eliminating Hamas, freeing all of our hostages, and ensuring that Gaza will no longer pose a threat to Israel, while providing the necessary humanitarian aid that will assist in achieving these goals.
Minister again today that we share the goal of defeating Hamas, but we just believe you need a coherent and sustainable strategy to make that happen.
Well, the call was the first between the two leaders since Feb 15th and comes amid sharp tensions between Israel and its most steadfast ally over Netanyahu's handling of the conflict in Gaza that followed Hamas's deadly October 7th attack inside Israel. Well, for more on the story, I've got Sarah Kotz joining us this afternoon. Good afternoon, Sarah. How does one take a look at, some kind of a breakthrough, especially in the ceasefire talks in Doha?
Hello there, good afternoon. Well, according to senior Israeli officials, these talks may go on for some time. They may actually take at least 2 weeks, given that we do understand that this Hamas delegation that is on the ground in Qatar will need to relay back every little bit of information to the leader of Hamas in the Gaza Strip, Yahya Sinwar, who is believed to be sheltering, hiding underground. We do understand that this Israeli delegation last night met with these Qatari mediators, really the first day of their trip there. According to the Israelis, they'll be laying out a framework for a deal which would include a pause for around 6 weeks in fighting, the release of some 40 Israeli captives for hundreds of Palestinian prisoners. But what we do need to remember here is that there are still large gaps between these two parties, big sticking points that do remain. One of these is Hamas wants to actually choose these Palestinian prisoners that are set free from Israeli jails, which is something that Israel says simply will not happen. While on the other hand, Israel wants a list of Israeli captives that do remain alive in the Gaza Strip, which is something that Hamas says it simply cannot provide. Given this intense Israeli bombing campaign, Hamas saying that it doesn't know which captives are alive or dead. And then there, of course, is this main sticking point, this main stumbling block that we've been seeing time and time again, and that is the end to this war. This is something that Hamas reportedly wants to discuss in the second or third stage of these talks, but this is something that Israel says is a red line, something that it simply will not agree to, as this would leave Hamas in power in the Gaza Strip. And this is one of the reasons the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken has just announced that he'll be taking his 6th trip to the Middle East since October 7. He'll be visiting Cairo, a number of other places in the Middle East, including Saudi Arabia, really trying to push this deal forward, given that it's just been taking so very long.
Okay, Sarah, do you see enough of aid reaching the people of Gaza, considering that UNICEF has time and again warned of a human catastrophe, that is before the people who are suffering, this particular calamity, which began somewhere, last year in October, and it continues, without stopping.
It certainly is very, very concerning. We've seen this report and these calls from this coalition of aid groups saying that the entire population in the Gaza Strip is almost on the brink of famine. And also the regional director of UNICEF has just come out to slam what she is calling shocking inaction, calling for all of these land border crossings into the Gaza Strip to be opened. We've also heard from Israeli officials who say that they have been facilitating unlimited aid into the Strip, but they're blaming Hamas for, quote, hijacking it. But this is simply why we are seeing so many alternate routes of getting aid into the Strip, like this maritime corridor from Cyprus, with this ship, the Open Arms, being the first pilot ship to bring these hundreds of tons of aid into the Gaza Strip, as well as these airdrops that have been carried out by a number of countries almost on a daily basis for the last few weeks. But this is really proving to be ineffective, inefficient for the needs that these people really are going through right now in the Strip, given we've seen some of these airdrops and a number of these parachutes haven't actually opened, actually causing these large, heavy boxes to drop on people who are desperately waiting underneath to try and get some of this vitally needed humanitarian aid. So it certainly is a real catastrophic situation. This is what these aid groups are calling it. And this, once again, is another one of the reasons that the Secretary of State Blinken is making this trip here. He's going to be looking at ways to try and facilitate more humanitarian aid into the Strip. But really, as we've been hearing from these aid groups, nothing can come close to opening these border crossings. And we are hearing reports from the Egyptian side of the border that there are many, many aid trucks lining up that simply cannot make it through. So certainly a very worrying situation on the ground.
We'll leave it there. Thank you and appreciate you joining us this afternoon on NewsHour. Shifting focus to elections in United States, where voters in 5 U.S. states are voting this Tuesday to choose who they want leading the Democratic and Republican parties in November's presidential election. It comes a week after President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump reached the required number of delegates to become their party's nominees. Nick Harper has the latest numbers from Washington.
Well, the Democratic and Republican primaries will see voters in Arizona, Florida, Illinois, Kansas and Ohio go to the polls on Tuesday. No big surprises are expected, with both Joe Biden predicted to easily win the Democratic contests and Donald Trump expected to easily win the Republican ones. They are now the only real contenders in both races. And last week, they both clinched their respective parties' nominations after winning enough delegates. Since the start of primary season in the middle of January, different states have been voting, choosing the candidate that they want, leading the parties in November's election. This Tuesday, of the 5 states, Arizona will be the one to watch. Biden won the state back in the 2020 presidential election, becoming the first Democrat in nearly 25 years to win the Southwest state. Turnout and results could provide some indication which way the state is leaning ahead of November's election. However, with the Biden-Trump rematch looming, opinion polls continue to show it's a rematch that most voters don't want. Some Americans think that Biden, at the age of 81, is too old to run for re-election, while others think Trump's legal troubles and his upcoming criminal trials should disqualify him from having another shot at the White House. Nick Harper in Washington, reporting for DD India.
Well, former U.S. President Donald Trump's lawyer stated on Monday that he could rather not afford to post a bond which is covering the full amount for the $454 million civil fraud judgment against him. He was appealing the New York court ruling, calling it practically impossible after 30 surety companies turned him down. Trump's lawyer said potential underwriters wanted cash, not properties. They asked the appeals court to postpone posting the bond until his appeal concludes, noting that the value of Trump's properties far exceeds the judgment. Well, according to media reports, the European Union is preparing to impose tariffs on grain imports from Russia and Belarus to appease farmers and some member states. EU is expected to import a duty of $103.26 a ton on grains coming from Russia and Belarus. The reported move comes as farmers demand changes to sanctions imposed on them by the bloc's Green Deal plan to tackle climate change and the reimposition of custom duties on imports of agricultural products from Ukraine. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk has called for an EU ban on imports of Russian and Belarusian agricultural products. Meanwhile, Hong Kong's Legislative Council has resumed the second reading of the new security bill. LACCO President Andrew Leong convenes a special meeting paving the way for lawmakers to pass the bill. The new law, referred to as Article 23, aims to address crimes such as treason, theft of state secrets, espionage, sabotage, sedition and external interference. Foreign diplomats and businesses fear it could further dent freedom in the financial hub. Some of the critics term it as the end of Hong Kong and say it has created a climate of fear in the city. Hong Kong has seen the arrests of a number of protesters, activists and former opposition lawmakers while protesting against it. While the Startup Mahakumbh event is a unique gathering that aims to bring together various stakeholders from the startup ecosystems in India. This includes startups, investors, incubators, also accelerators and industry leaders. Here's a detailed look.
Startup Mahakumbh is featuring sector-focused pavilions showcasing innovative startups, mentorship clinics, pitch competitions, a multi-track conference with leadership talks and workshops, and activities for startups and future entrepreneurs.
This kind of event showcases the seriousness of the government and the entire ecosystem of investing and taking startup in the main stage. If you look at around, it's one of the biggest event. It's really like a Mahakumbh for startup. I haven't seen this kind of event in India on startups, having very specific segments on deep tech, climate tech and all different sectors. And I think recently, India has granted 1 lakh patents in India on deep tech startups and different technologies. So that is going to really change the game for our Indian startups. And the way we are growing the startup ecosystem is going to generate millions of employment.
The event aims to facilitate connections between startups and various investors, corporate partners and other stakeholders, with participation of over 1,000 startups from all across India, investors and more than 500 incubators and accelerators and 5,000 conference delegates. Young entrepreneurs showcase their creative and innovative ideas at Startup Mahakumbh event in New Delhi.
At Neodocs, we are creating instant smartphone-based testing kits. One of the tests we are working for anemia. We can do anemia testing on any phone. Second, we are working for UTI. 60% of women suffer from urinary tract infection. We help detect UTI in the convenience of your home within 30 seconds. Third, we have created a test for chronic kidney disease. All diabetics and hypertensives are at a risk of developing chronic kidney disease. We help identify CKD earlier than any other test.
FarmGrid is a patented agri-tech startup where we are connecting the farmers to the buyers around the world. We built a network of around 23 countries till date. We are again building up, we are extending our things to other overseas countries, and we are having clients from other countries too. And farmers from Sri Lanka, Bangladesh and Vietnam also connected with FarmGrid as of now.
We are a B2B SaaS company and we help hotels in terms of managing their property. We help them to sell, market and manage their hotel.
The event logo symbolizes innovation, energy, and the birth of new ideas, reflecting the essence of a vibrant gathering celebrating entrepreneurship and innovation in India. Kriti Vadhera for DD India.
Well, Mayor of South Korea, Kwang-yeol Kim, along with his delegation, visited the University of Delhi to convey appreciation for donation by the Vice-Chancellor of Delhi University during his last visit to High Wellness Festa 2023 in South Korea. He also extended an invitation to the Vice-Chancellor of Delhi University to be the chief guest for the opening ceremony for the Yongdeok International High Wellness Festa 2024, scheduled for October this year, which uniquely combines traditional Korean medicine with Indian Ayurveda and offers various experiences to participants, promoting the importance of mental health. The possibility of mutual collaboration in the field of traditional medicinal systems of both countries has been discussed, and to sign an MOU in this regard, the two institutions are very likely, an MOU very likely is to take place in the near future. A quick look at other stories from India making news. India's Central Reserve Force, that's police force, celebrated its 85th anniversary today. A parade was organized in the city of Prayagraj in the northern state of Uttar Pradesh to mark the occasion. Minister of State for Home Affairs Nityanand Rai took the salute at the parade. The Supreme Court of India is hearing a batch of around 237 petitions today concerning the Citizenship Amendment Act 2019 and the recently notified Citizenship Amendment Rules 2024. A bench of Chief Justice of India D.Y. Chandrachud with Justices J.B. Pardiwala and Manoj Mishra would be hearing the matter. A court in India extended former Deputy Chief Minister of Delhi Manish Sisodia's judicial custody till April 6th. Sisodia has been in custody in the Delhi excise policy case. The third International Conference on Defence and Security began in New Delhi today. The two-day event is organized collaboratively by the Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises and the PhD Chamber of Commerce and Industry. It focuses on navigating new technologies in defence and security and the emerging role of micro, small and medium enterprises. Still to come on DD India News Hour. World Health Organization says world has ignored catastrophic humanitarian situation in Sudan. Sacred Buddha relics to return to India from Thailand with full state honours. US tech giant Nvidia unveils the world's most powerful artificial intelligence chip that can do some tasks 30 times faster than its predecessor.
India that invents. India that innovates. India that excites. India that invites. Land of possibilities. Teeming with opportunities. Watch India Ideas each Thursday 8 p.m. only on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Anil Thomas. April marks 1 year of the conflict in Sudan, sparked by a power struggle between two rival generals. The World Health Organization has reported dire consequences for the population of nearly 49 million people, with over half requiring urgent aid to survive. Since the conflict erupted on April 15th last year, tens of thousands have lost their lives or have been wounded. Millions have been forcibly displaced, and among the 18 million facing severe hunger. 5 million are teetering on the border of famine, according to the World Food Programme. Well, concluding a historic and spiritually enriching exposure in Thailand, the holy relics of Lord Buddha and his two disciples to be escorted back to their respective homes. On the last day of the exposition of sacred relics, Ambassador Nagesh Singh with Thailand's Minister for Culture, Samsek, highlighted the significance of renewing spiritual bond between India and Thailand to realize Indian Prime Minister's vision of leveraging eternal consciousness of Dharma for ushering the century of Asia. Both conveyed deep appreciation, enabling millions of pilgrims from different parts of Thailand and its neighboring countries in Mekong region to pay obeisance to the holy relics from India. On the last day of exposition of the sacred relics in Karbi, thousands of devotees continue to visit Wat Mahatat to pay respects to the sacred relics of Lord Buddha and disciples Arahant Sariputta and Arahant Maha Moggallana. Well, artificial intelligence powerhouse NVIDIA has unveiled a flagship artificial intelligence chip named Blackwell B200 on Monday that boasts of speed up to 30 times faster than its predecessor. The new chip combines two chips of NVIDIA's previous size into a single unit. The new chip has 208 billion transistors, more than double the 80 billion on the company's previous chip. All of those transistors can access the memory attached to the chip at nearly the same time, improving productivity. The leading AI semiconductor company has also unveiled a suite of software tools aimed at aiding developers in marketing their AI models to the various NVIDIA users more effectively. Meanwhile, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi has said that China is ready to work with New Zealand to actively implement the upgraded version of the China-New Zealand Free Trade Agreement. On Monday, Wang Yi met New Zealand's Trade Minister Todd McClay in Wellington, where he said that the two sides should launch negotiations on the negative list of service trades as soon as possible to push bilateral cooperation to a new level. The upgraded China-New Zealand FTA marks an important example in the face of increasing trade barriers and uncertainties in the world. Wang Yi said that the two sides should work together to uphold the principles of free trade and resist various protectionism and unilateral actions. China's Evergrande Group's founder will be barred from the security markets. That's Hui Khan. From the security markets for life, and he's been banned, and he's also been fined $6.5 million after regulators accused the group's flagship unit of inflating results, securities fraud, and failing to make timely disclosures. China's security watchdog also penalized Evergrande's Hengda Real Estate and several of his former senior executives after an investigation. Evergrande defaulted on its offshore debt in late 2021 and was ordered by the Hong Kong High Court to liquidate in January this year. Well, for the latest from the world of sports, I'm joined by my colleague Deepika, helping us to take all the sports talk forward.
Thanks and good afternoon, Anil. Let's quickly take our viewers through what's happening in the world of sports. Starting with tennis. Making a remarkable debut at the Miami Open, Indian tennis player Sumit Nagal secured a straight-set victory over Canada's Gabriel Diallo on Monday. The 26-year-old, playing the first-round qualifier match, kept his nerves in the crucial stages to outwit the Canadian by 7-6 and 6-2. Nagal, who had broken into the world's top 100 last month after winning the Chennai Open, will face Coleman Wong next. Nagal had created quite a flutter in January when he advanced to the second round of the Australian Open. That effort had played a big part in launching him into the top 100 of the ATP rankings. In women's T20 international cricket, swashbuckling half-century from Heather Knight helped Team England beat New Zealand to take 1-0 lead in the T20I series against New Zealand. While Temi Beaumont fell early for 15, Sophia Dunkley set herself up for a long haul at the crease after smashing 6 boundaries. Knight was fluent in her stay at the crease as she hammered 63 before departing in the penultimate over as England finished with a strong 160 on the board. In reply, New Zealand were handed a blow very early in the game as 19-year-old Isabel fell in the first over for a duck. Maddie Green's 14-ball 8 added to their woes as the onus was on Bates to help the hosts get closer to the target. While she did hit a 50, needing 71 from the final 5 overs, that proved to be too much for Team New Zealand as they fell well short of the target by 27 runs. Second T20 between both the teams will now be played on the 22nd of March. On to soccer. Argentinian Football Association on Monday ruled out their captain Lionel Messi from this month's friendlies in the United States due to a hamstring injury. The 36-year-old suffered the injury while playing for Inter Miami in the team's 3-1 home victory over Nashville in CONCACAF Champions Cup last Wednesday. Messi is the latest absence for Lionel Scaloni's side following injuries to AS Roma forward Paulo Dybala, Bayer Leverkusen midfielder Ezequiel Palacios and Bournemouth defender Marco Senesi. Argentina will meet El Salvador at Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia on Friday and Costa Rica in Los Angeles 4 days later. India's Air Force Chief V.R. Chaudhary felicitated IAF personnel for outstanding performance in sports on Tuesday. In a ceremony that took place in New Delhi, which was held at Air Force Station for meritorious sportspersons of IAF who have excelled at national and international arena. 25 sportspersons who had won medals at national, international forums, 6 teams of Indian Air Force who were winners at inter-services, national championship, and support staff were felicitated during the ceremony. On the occasion, the CAS also unveiled the Indian Air Force Sports brochure, highlighting the achievement of IAF sportsmen.
The Indian Air Force is proud of these achievements, and on behalf of all the air warriors of the Indian Air Force, I urge you to keep up the hard work, strive for greater laurels. We hope to see more winners here being felicitated next year, in particular after the Olympics. Let us not only celebrate the past victories, but strive for greater heights in the years to come, breaking boundaries and continue to showcase the indomitable spirit of the Indian Air Force.
So that was a quick wrap from the world of sports. Back to Anil.
Thank you, Deepika, for that quick update there. It's time for us to call it a wrap, but before we do that, we leave you with some wonderful show-closing visuals. British anonymous street artist Banksy confirmed that an artwork that appeared in a park in North London is his creation. The mural shows green paint sprayed on a wall behind a cult back tree to look like foliage, with a stencil of a person holding a sprayer next to it. Take a look. It's managed to amuse people in North London and has a lot of people gathering to catch a glimpse. Well, that's all we have time for in this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, Instagram. You can also visit our website, ddindia.co.in. When we're right back with more news as it breaks here on DD India, I'm Anil Thomas from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.